The Volkswagen Diesel Scandal, widely known as Dieselgate, marked a significant chapter in automotive history, exposing deep flaws in the intersection of corporate ethics and environmental responsibility. The revelation in September 2015 that Volkswagen, one of the largest car manufacturers globally, had been engaging in a deliberate act of deception shook the industry and consumers alike. The scandal's roots lay in Volkswagen's ambitious drive to dominate the global auto market. To achieve this, Volkswagen promoted its diesel vehicles as a pinnacle of environmental friendliness, especially in the US, where stringent emission standards posed a challenging hurdle. These diesel vehicles were marketed under the Clean Diesel Initiative, promising low emissions alongside high performance, a combination that attracted environmentally conscious consumers who did not want to compromise on power. However, the reality behind these clean vehicles was starkly different. The discovery of the fraud began innocently, with researchers from West Virginia University conducting routine emissions tests. Funded by the International Council on Clean Transportation, their aim was to verify that Volkswagen's diesel technology really delivered on its green promises when used outside the controlled conditions of laboratory tests. What they uncovered, however, was alarming. The emissions on the road were significantly higher than those recorded in labs. Volkswagen had developed and installed sophisticated software known as a defeat device in its diesel engines. This software was engineered to detect when the vehicle was undergoing official emissions testing and alter the performance accordingly to meet legal standards. Once the testing was over, the software switched off these stringent controls, resulting in emission levels that were up to 40 times the US legal limit. Initially, Volkswagen was slow to respond to the emerging allegations. However, as the evidence became undeniable, the company quickly shifted to crisis management mode. Martin Winterkorn, then CEO of Volkswagen, made a public apology, acknowledging the company's wrongdoing and expressing deep regret over the breach of trust with the public and regulators. Despite this, the fallout from the scandal led to his resignation just days later, marking the first of many high-level departures aimed at rebuilding the company's tarnished image. Volkswagen faced staggering financial implications. The company set aside billions of euros to cover fines, legal claims, and the costs associated with recalling and fixing the affected vehicles. In total, the scandal cost Volkswagen over $30 billion, including a $4.3 billion settlement with the US Department of Justice. Volkswagen also agreed to a substantial civil settlement that included compensation for affected customers, such as buybacks, repairs, and financial compensation for losses. In response to the scandal, Volkswagen undertook significant restructuring to overhaul its governance and compliance systems. This included strengthening oversight and implementing more stringent controls to ensure such issues would not recur. Additionally, Volkswagen made a strategic pivot towards electric vehicles, signaling a move away from diesel technology. The company launched its Together Strategy 2025, focusing on innovation in electric mobility, with substantial investments in electric vehicle technology and infrastructure. Part of Volkswagen's response involved efforts to repair its environmental reputation. The company committed to funding environmental programs and initiatives aimed at offsetting the excess pollution caused by its non-compliant diesel vehicles. This included investments in clean air projects and support for the development of electric vehicle charging infrastructure. The consequences of the Volkswagen diesel scandal rippled through the company and the automotive industry with sweeping intensity. Financially, Volkswagen bore an immense burden. The company had to allocate massive resources to address the crisis, impacting its profitability and operational focus. Billions were spent not just on fines and settlements, but also on compensating owners of the affected vehicles, which included buybacks and repairs. This financial strain extended beyond the immediate aftermath of the scandal, influencing Volkswagen's strategic investments and budget allocations for years. The Volkswagen diesel scandal not only triggered a major upheaval within Volkswagen, but also sent shockwaves across the entire automotive industry. prompting other manufacturers to reassess their own practices and technologies, particularly around diesel engines and emissions testing. Following the revelation of Volkswagen's use of defeat devices, regulatory agencies worldwide increased their scrutiny of diesel vehicles, leading to broader investigations into other manufacturers. This included checks for similar software or practices that might violate emission standards. As a result, several other automakers found themselves under the microscope, facing tough questions about their compliance with emission norms. One of the most significant shifts in the automotive industry post-Dieselgate was the accelerated move towards electrification. Manufacturers increasingly invested in electric vehicle, EV technology, partly driven by the scandal and the tarnished reputation of diesel engines. Companies like General Motors, Ford, and even luxury automakers like BMW and Mercedes-Benz ramped up their development and production of EVs, recognizing both the regulatory push and the growing consumer demand for cleaner, more sustainable vehicles. Automakers around the world began to enhance their compliance measures to avoid similar scandals. This involved overhauling their vehicle testing procedures and making their compliance operations more transparent to regulators and the public. Many companies started to collaborate more closely with regulatory bodies to ensure that their new models met all environmental standards before they hit the market. The industry saw a significant increase in the use of more rigorous and realistic testing procedures for emissions. Other manufacturers also had to manage the public relations fallout from the Dieselgate scandal, even if they weren't directly involved. Many used this opportunity to distinguish themselves from Volkswagen by emphasizing their commitment to ethical practices and environmental responsibility. Marketing strategies were adjusted to highlight transparency and trustworthiness, attempting to reassure consumers that their products were compliant with legal standards and environmentally friendly. In addition to focusing on electric vehicles, some automakers began phasing out diesel engines altogether from their product lines, especially in markets with stringent emission regulations. The shift was also strategic to align with evolving consumer preferences and regulatory landscapes that favor more sustainable and lower emission technologies. The Volkswagen Diesel Scandal elicited a wide range of reactions from political figures, the automotive industry, media commentators, and the general public. Each group responded based on their perspectives, responsibilities, and interests. Political figures, especially in countries with significant automotive industries or stringent environmental policies, reacted strongly to the scandal. In the United States and Europe, lawmakers and regulators expressed outrage and called for strict enforcement of environmental laws. There was a bipartisan consensus in the US Congress about the need for tougher regulations and oversight, and the European Union moved to tighten emission testing procedures and standards. Politicians saw the scandal as a breach of public trust and an environmental hazard, prompting calls for not only penalties but also systemic changes to prevent similar issues in the future. The reactions within the automotive industry were mixed. While some industry leaders criticized Volkswagen for damaging the reputation of diesel technology and the automotive sector as a whole, others saw it as a wake-up call to accelerate the transition to alternative fuel technologies. Industry groups and competitors emphasized their commitment to compliance and environmental responsibility, partly to distance themselves from the scandal and partly to reassure consumers about the integrity of their own products. The media coverage of the Dieselgate scandal was extensive and critical, with investigative reports exploring how such a breach could have occurred and why it went undetected for so long. Commentators discussed the implications for corporate governance, the effectiveness of regulatory oversight, and the future of diesel technology. The scandal was seen as emblematic of broader issues of corporate misconduct and sparked debates about the balance between business interests and environmental protection. Public reaction was measured through polls and surveys, which generally showed a decline in trust in Volkswagen specifically and in the automotive industry more broadly. Consumer confidence in diesel technology plummeted, with many expressing a preference for more stringent regulatory oversight and a faster adoption of cleaner technologies. Public polling indicated a significant impact on Volkswagen's brand reputation, with potential and existing customers reconsidering their loyalty to the brand. Overall, the Dieselgate scandal led to a fundamental rethinking of automotive emission standards, corporate responsibility, and environmental compliance, driven by the varied but interconnected reactions of political figures, industry stakeholders, media, and the public. The scandal not only affected Volkswagen's operations, but also had lasting impacts on policy, industry practices, and public perceptions worldwide. It also amplified global discussions about the urgent need for environmental stewardship and integrity in business operations. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more insightful videos.